Don't you know drugs are everywhere, drugs are everywhere, drugs are everywhere. You can't stop it. Living like a bag of pumping a bowl and so it's one kind of day. Drugs are everywhere, drugs are everywhere, drugs are everywhere.
Hey, Murphy here. I'm a former heroin addict, current alcoholic, and you're tuned into Self-Medicated Weekly Dose, a podcast all about drugs and the people who use them. As always, this program is inspired by the harm reduction movement, informed by my personal experience using all sorts of drugs for damn near 30 years, and enlightened by my special guests. And today, I will tell you what, we got a very special, triply times 3 special guest on our hands. You know her and you love her if you're a listener to the program. If you're a liver in the home with me, you love her even more because she's your life partner. She's the greatest of all time, part of the collective Functionally Dead, the socialist comedy zine that everyone should be reading. Please welcome to the program once again, Diana Kolsky.
Thank you for having me. I'm like Brando in the shadows here.
You are. Yes, you're.
For our audio listeners, Murph has me set up across the room from him in our little office, but I'm like over by a bathrobe, and the lighting's questionable.
She's in the shadows, Brando lit. Only I showed up to this production 50 pounds overweight, and I don't know my line, so I don't know what. We've switched. We've seen both.
The Apocalypse Now content on your program is high, and we love
The horror.
I know. I actually like it over here in the dark, so thank you. I feel very at home.
You look tremendous. We're doing this like close up for the listeners of the program. We're doing this little close up far away. It's an optical illusion.
Murph's looks huge. His head is filling up the whole square, and I'm like tiny next to a fuse box in the dark.
Oh my word. So we're perfectly set up is the thing.
Yeah, we're painting a picture.
Now, lover, I brought you back here on the program. We had so much fun the first 2 times you were on here. And you know, we did the little thing, you know, we had to do a little mix them up. People who listen to the program know we do a little inside the user studio at the end of every episode. So the second time you were on, we had to go, well, what the hell? We can't have you do it twice. That doesn't make sense. So you embodied Lipton. You were possessed by the spirit of James Lipton.
Yeah, he was inside me.
Yeah, and I've never been more aroused. And then I was...
Let's talk about that later.
We'll save that for later. I was me, and then I answered the questions.
I was me.
My auto bio is I was me. So then you asked me those questions. So now the third time we're on here, the reason I have you on here is we're throwing it all out the window because we got a very special. There's just one piece. You know, it's a melodrama. It unfolded in multiple chapters, but it's really one story that I just wanted to dive in with you because I thought you would bring a lot to it.
So this is like a special edition app.
I would say this is absolutely a special edition app.
Can we put like a sticker on?
Yes, let's throw a sticker on.
Special.
Special edition. That will be stickered for everyone to see.
Great.
In the descript. But, you know, really what it encompasses is 3 times you've been here. There's 3 segments from the regular, of the recurring segments that this story can fit into.
Wow.
So take your pick for the audience.
There's 3 of us.
3 of us.
Including
you, me, and Brando.
This bathrobe, yes.
So you, me, and Marlon are going to listen for all 3 of these little segments. We're going to kick it off with the substance report.
This is the question. Do junkies' lives matter?
And then we're Biden time.
Scranton, Pennsylvania.
And then we finish it off with some fentanyl fever.
You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Times 3.
Wow, your sound bites are incredible.
I know.
So you're saying this one topic we're going to discuss falls under all 3 of those banners.
All three
Excellent.
banners. Yes. And, you know, it's just such a special story because there's, you know, a little bit of everything. There's a lot of stuff to unpack, a lot of layers to it. So let's dive right in. The only context I'll throw out here is there was a hearing in the House, the House of Representatives.
Heard of it?
Capitol Hill. Yeah.
Capitol Hill.
Capitol. And, you know, there's a lot of great players, a lot of great Congress people in there, ridiculous characters, caricatures, you might even say.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of them, of course, MTG from Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of your faves. by faves, I mean, we all know she's a horrible.
I love it.
Yeah, Christian nationalist. But we love the antics. We love that she loves to shake the trees a little bit and get ridiculous. And so here's an instance where they decided the House, they won over the House. Like, oh, we got enough Republicans here. We want it back. We're going to be doing some hearings. We're going to be doing all sorts of ridiculous hearings that we're going to call. And then just people have to pretend like they're a real thing, and they have to sit down and take them seriously. And, C-SPAN fires up the cameras, and we all get a little circus show. So this one here was about the fentanyl, crisis. So the fentanyl's on everybody's lips. It's on my lips, and I'm high as a goddamn pine, Georgia pine.
Right. MTG is not.
No. She's
Georgia, but she's sober as a Georgia cobra.
She is sober as a cobra. She called in this hearing, and among a couple others. And the whole idea was like, let's incorporate the one thing that we can do to solve this fentanyl crisis that we have, which of course is not, fentanyl testing strips being, federally legalized, regulated, distributed, Narcan everywhere, healthcare, public health. No.
They immediately do away with any solutions that would actually help.
Correct. And the whole thing is, of course, the border. As we know, the border.
I was worried the border wouldn't come up.
Me too at first. I'm like, we're talking about fentanyl. We need public health. Like, will the border make it into this conversation?
It must.
And it sure did. And she they trotted out an incredible woman to give some testimony. We'll get to her in a moment. But let's first just start with MTG's opening statements here at the old House Committee on Fentanyl Fever.
Fentanyl is now the #1 cause of death of young Americans ages 18 to 45. And this is unforgivable. The Biden administration is responsible for this, and they have blood on their hands because they refuse to secure our border.
She also posted a clip on Twitter.
Now, this is a little bit of a follow-up here from Morning Joe on the old MSNBC network. This is their follow-up to Marjorie Taylor Greene here.
A mother who testified at that hearing, the woman lost both of her sons to fentanyl overdoses, which Marjorie Taylor Greene blamed on the Biden administration. Their deaths are, of course, tragic.
Of course, tragic, but we must also exploit them for our political points.
Right.
But we will now fact-check Congresswoman Greene's timeline. Both men she referred to died in 2020 during the Trump administration. Ooh. CNN reporter Daniel Dale reached out to Greene's office about that error. Dale posted on Twitter that Greene's spokesman responded with expletives. You can see it on the screen.
Huh.
Did he just say huh?
Scarborough just gave a huh.
Okay, I have a couple things.
Real quick, just for the, since we're all adults, I just want to say what those expletives that they refused to, whatever, is this guy reached out to Marjorie Taylor Greene's team. Somebody responded by saying, lots of people have died from drugs under Biden, and quote, do you think they give a fuck about your bullshit fact checking? So those are the old expletives there. That was what the Green
Oh my God. Okay, everyone's in the weeds. A few things.
Go.
Can you imagine calling your show Morning Joe? Okay. Also, just the in 2020, the sass there, like she's pretending she cares that anyone's dead, but she cannot wait.
To adjust the scoreboard.
Wait. Yes, exactly. To be like, got him. And it'll be like, oh man, that's just very funny.
It is very funny.
She's like this tight shrew.
Yeah, super tight shrew.
And he's like, huh.
Yeah, there's a lot of huh. That's this whole show. Right. Yeah, so then getting back to MTG there. Also, great work at Kinko's to print out those. She's at Congress. She's got the headline printed out on a nice little poster board. Nice
for the listeners, she had a prop.
She had a prop with her. And it was, it just basically had what she said on there, which is that these things are out of control and that it's the blood is on Biden's hands. Now, to fact check, what's funny about that is you're also just the very strange thing here is number one, if we're keeping score on who dies when, based on exactly when someone is in office, that's the most childish understanding or lack of understanding of how anything works.
Yeah.
It's just these are decades of policies. These are generations of policies that are going up against each other and compounding and getting worse and worse. It's just...
Well, they're this fentanyl was made by a Canadian who was born under the first Bush administration came over the border in the Clinton era. Like, one of the chemicals used sat for decades, and you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Just give everyone health care and go die.
Well, so this is where it starts. This is where the whole thing starts. So of course the cable news has their fun with this fact checking, fake news, misinformation, disinformation.
Oh, they love it.
Whatever it is, come from MTG because of the dates. So she fucked up.
She like greased her seat on that one,
big time.
I've just never seen someone be 20. She was
wiggling. She was wiggling in her chair.
was wiggling.
I wasn't going to say anything. I thought it was just my vision. I was going blurred.
There's a vibration, an orgasmic vibration.
Full vibrations on Morning Joe. And so so the idea here being, of course, it's like, well, we don't want to politicize this. We hate to, but we're about to continue to over the death of these people. So to also really quick now just speak to this woman who she brought in, talking about this mother who lost 2 children. So Rebecca Kiesling is this woman's name.
Okay.
She's for those of us who don't dive into the weeds as much with this nonsense, that I've kind of did a little homework on the woman because I saw this hearing.
Right.
She had
You're obsessed with the fentanyl situation.
I'm obsessed with fentanyl.
You're obsessed with fent.
Super fent fan. Hashtag fent. Biggest fent fan.
Fent fan. Get that going.
Some fent fanfic is what I need to start writing.
Yeah. You must.
So this woman gave about 20 minutes. She probably went over time, I imagine, at this hearing, where they were like, "Yeah, tell us your story." So she lays the whole thing out, and there were just parts of it, and I'm going to play in a minute one of the parts that was very peculiar. And this is from another segment here. Now we're going to transition from WNBC, from MSNBC to Fox News. And we'll hear a little bit of Kiesling's testimony along with what Biden's response to all this from Marjorie Taylor Greene was. But just to quickly say, this woman's testimony, it's of course all over the map. They know they're bringing her in as a political puppet to be like, well, people can't call this woman. This woman lost her 2 sons to fentanyl. Like, you can't call anything she says is fair play. And so here's a little nugget of that, which was the Kiesling's testimony in Congress and Biden's response to MTG putting the blood on his hands.
President Biden is facing backlash over his reaction to an emotionally charged House hearing about fentanyl and the ongoing border crisis. Rebecca Kiesling, who joined Harris in the Faulkner Focus just last hour, lost both of her sons, Caleb and Kyler, to fentanyl poisoning back in 2020. In heartbreaking testimony, she explained that the pain pills they took were laced with fentanyl that came across the southern border. And she tore into lawmakers for not doing enough to stop that.
You talk about children being taken away from their parents. My children were taken away from me. 100,000 Americans every year are having their children. 200,000 because it's both parents, right? This should not be politicized. It's not about race. Fentanyl doesn't care about race. You talk about welcoming those crossing our border, seeking protection. You're welcoming drug dealers across our border. You're giving them protection. You're not protecting our children.
Okay, now before we get to Biden's response,
I have so many thoughts.
I just
that was like a fucking poo-poo platter of nut.
Excuse me, did you order this poo-poo platter of nut?
Poo-poo nut.
Yes,
very
please.
weird.
So and also let me just say this too before bear with us as we get through who Rebecca Kiesling is and we let this play out a little bit more, because I can see on the surface somebody tuning in, they don't know, maybe my sensibilities, where my heart's certainly in a good place, but I like to take my pot shots at people who are, either saying harmful things out there, people in positions of power, people who are being used as puppets by people in positions of power. So let me just say that, yes, this is a grieving mother, but I would just say that stay with us. But she's a grieving mother. It's kind of like the slippery Morning Joe. It's like, it was tragic that the 2 sons died. However, no, but this woman is
but if anyone
harmful nonsense, and we will.
If anyone just heard that though, she said it's not about race, and then proceeded to say everybody trying to cross the southern border has drugs that are going to kill our children.
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty racist.
It's pretty racist. And also it's suspect when someone starts a statement, when they say to you that a chemical substance doesn't care what color someone is, but then you go on, then you're kind of saying, well, But I would imagine all of the policies around it and the people involved in it do. Because, of course, to say that is almost just like, well, we can all agree fentanyl doesn't care what race you are. It doesn't matter what. You're like, of course it doesn't, you fucking lunatic. Why would you think a chemical substance would care what race you were?
Right.
But I bet you do, Rebecca.
But the so-called criminal justice system really cares.
Cares very much.
Deeply. She also looks like a really just beat to hell Sissy Spacek having a mental breakdown in some 80s film. And I need that to happen at some point.
Oh my God. Sissy is Kiesling. Yes, please, Sissy, if you're listening. I know you are.
You would nail.
You would nail Kiesling. You'd be so good. Carrie. There's Carrie vibes there. There's almost like they're all going to laugh at you and some blood coming through the halls of Congress.
Yeah.
Well, let's get Biden's response. This is the next we're going to hear. This is Joe Biden's response to MTG trotting this woman out.
It shouldn't have been politicized, but it was. Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene posted part of this distraught mother's testimony, and she tweeted, "Our government is failing our young people. Thousands are murdered by Chinese-made cartel-smuggled fentanyl each month, and Joe Biden is doing nothing to stop it. My heart breaks for this poor mother." And here's how the president responded.
Isn't she amazing? Oof. She was very specific recently, saying that a poor mother who lost 2 kids to fentanyl, that I killed her sons. The interesting thing is that fentanyl they took came during the last administration. Anyway, I don't want to get started.
The audience of Democrats did not laugh with him. Kiesling says she was shocked by his response and is now demanding an apology. Here she is last hour on the Faulkner Focus.
How can he sit there and joke about it? He thought he was with a room full of Democrats and, he's amongst friends and they can all yuck it up. What kind of a person does that?
Yeah, for the listeners, they keep trotting out the photo of the 2 deceased sons, and
it's an unfortunate.
It's an unfortunate photo. They need to find something else. They're in matching chambray shirts and bow ties, and they look like Bucky Beaver weird. And I just feel like it's not respectful of the dead to show this photo over and over again.
No, I think anyone out there, if you died and your parents at 18 or 20 years old or any age, really, if your parents trotted this photo out, you'd be pissed.
But there's a reason too. And
well,
I know,
as we know,
this is the whitest photo I've ever seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's the most suburban cul-de-sac ass, just bizarro, fucking Pleasantville weird ass shit. And I feel like there's cards being played here and there's dog whistles.
Sure.
Oh, whistling Dixie. Yeah.
Whistling.
This woman is unhinged too.
Yes, it's completely unhinged. SpaceX, let's get in touch. Let's make it happen. We'll put a treatment together. Yeah, I think the response too as well from Biden, of course, is one, he was talking about MTG, so they do a nice little
Yes.
2-step there. It almost makes it sound like when he's going, "Oh, she's something."
Yeah, she's a piece of work.
It's
no, you're obviously talking about
Marjorie. But either way, a hilarious. I wish look, everyone who listens to the program knows how I feel about Scranton Joe. I wish there were more of this from him. Frankly, this feels like old school. Scranton Joe, rather than this, the generally bumbling. Not
you
quite
wish
sure.
there was more like him taking the bait from a mother of dead sons. Is that your position?
That is, yes, that's my position. I wish he was more Trumpian. I wish that because those 2 circus clowns going at it together, because this is a Trump move. Trump would say this.
It's very weird and stupid to take the bait on this. It's very bizarre.
It is.
And they're all just down in the muck together,
shocking,
eating the shit out of each other's asses. I do not understand.
It's
why?
a human centipede of yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's because nobody wants to talk about things that policies that can actually affect change. So they're just he said, she said.
It is. It's very
bullshit.
It is the he said, she said bullshit. This definitely feels like a TMZ piece of some drama that happened on set. And yeah, I think him taking the bait on this is ridiculous. His team must have been no one told him to say they're probably let's not address, usually they would just ignore this.
I don't know, though. At this point, I think everybody's going for the no press is bad press, and they just want to have a moment, and they want to be like, Biden went head to head with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't even think anybody gives a shit.
I think you're right.
His dog hasn't attacked him in weeks. They have nothing to report.
Is it Major? Is Major still with us? Major passed.
I think they had to put like 15 of them down because they just kept biting him.
Major 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, Major 9 keeps biting.
Major 9 is just an NYPD dog. The robot. Just ripping people's dicks off.
Arf, arf, Joe.
Arf, arf.
Yeah.
Leader.
So this photo's a lot. And again, you know, to try to say, you know, we'll get into what happened specifically these two kids in a moment, because I went back and kind of dug it up to be like, what really happened in this space? Because the big takeaway from the full speech that this woman gave, her full testimony at the House, Rebecca Kiesling, the whole crux of it was, of course, we got to shut down the border. We're helping out people, you know, meaning people fleeing, refugees and migrants and people, you know, trying to with their families. And she's painting the picture where even though they say 90% of the fentanyl comes through at ports of entry, not through, you know, the open borders.
Not the border.
No. And like, there's a lot of nonsense with this. But
yeah, that's another question I had. The assumption that like to mingle those two, like, of course it's sexy, like fentanyl's killing everybody and there's a so-called border crisis.
Mm-hmm.
So of course you want to combine them, but is that even true? Is like Mexico the main source of fentanyl?
So here's what, I mean, if we want to go down into the rabbit holes, I feel like my theory
Take me into the hole, dear.
Come into the hole. Come out of the shadows and into the deeper shadows. Yeah, I feel like that narrative has been pushed so hard. Every time we hear a story about fentanyl, it's China with the chemicals that they gave them to the cartels. They sold them to the cartels. So China just being China. So just the you know, I don't know, the CCP, the country of China, you know, it's just saying China selling to the cartels in Mexico, and then they use those chemicals.
So they're saying that China's
chemicals.
Currently doing with fentanyl what the U.S. did, like during the Reagan administration with cocaine.
With cocaine, yes.
Right, like
yes,
we're just
yes,
like, okay.
Yes, essentially.
But is that even true?
I mean, how could we know?
It just seems a little too convenient that they're like, born in China, educated in Russia, and
sneaks through from Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, really?
Sure.
Like, yeah. I mean, I feel like the call's coming from inside the house, but that may not be accurate.
Lover, I think it's very accurate. The call's coming from inside the house. I also think it's no coincidence that the rhetoric has now reached the levels of they want fentanyl labeled as a weapon of mass destruction. Which, of course, you could be like, who cares about the semantics? But in terms of the legality of that.
Wait, they are currently using fentanyl. It's a really great drug in hospitals.
That's correct. Yes. So that fentanyl is made.
So would that be like labeled as like a
weapon of mass destruction? if you're giving birth, a lot of people, you know, a lot of people in
cancer, birth,
so many reasons.
Yeah.
And it's a wonder it keeps people to not have to go under because it's such a potent painkiller, but it doesn't last that long, so it's perfect.
And it's synthetic, so it's a lot easier to produce than like opioid pain medication.
Sure. Well, the poppies, you don't have to get.
I mean, this really is fanfic. I mean, it's not fic, but it's fandom.
It is.
We're like, listen, it's a really great drug in hospitals. Obviously, the issue is people not knowing what they're getting with fentanyl,
correct.
But it's not fentanyl itself.
No, and also the kind of fentanyl you would assume maybe they would make. So the big pharma, the fentanyl they're making, which of course they're saying. There's none of that leaking. None of the fentanyl that gets to the streets has anything to do with Big Pharma making fentanyl, medicinal fentanyl.
The same drug.
It's the precursor chemicals that China has given to the cartels.
I think it's when a Boy Scout dies in a hotel room, you know that's Mexican, and you know that it's Biden's era of Mexican import.
That's right.
Drugs.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, this is all coming together beautifully.
So much coming.
And I hate that we have to sit here and like defend Joe Biden. He's such a fucking rugrat. I mean, he's such a loser. And then we just have to be like, in 2020.
Technically, it wasn't
God.
Joe. Yeah. No, and we all know. And listen, Joe has deported, and I don't know if this stat is held, but in the first 100 days of his presidency, Joe deported more people from the country than Trump did. You know, so they were neck and neck in terms of like the rhetoric was great.
Yeah,
for
and
Trump.
now we have to defend
rhetoric.
Trump because he didn't deport quite as many people. Everyone is awful.
This is what
put them in a blender, make them into soup, and we will feast.
We must feast on their blood, and that is the only way we will get well as a nation. Yes, we need a cleansing with all these fuckers. So Keith,
that'll get us put on a list. Here.
Let's please. Well, but ever equally though, what list? You know, it's like what list? What list includes if you're talking about everybody in the blender?
Right.
What list is that? You know, I want to maybe be on it. I want to maybe start it.
The menu.
Yes. Yeah.
Not the. All right.
No, that menu.
Cut that.
No, that's
Gotta
staying.
go.
There's no cuts.
Ah.
Kiesling's cuts. All right. So this fucking photo and the kids. Now we'll get into the specifics of this case because
but I think this is the part that will really get people on our side against this grieving mother.
I hope so.
Is that somebody already paid for this crime?
Yes, someone already paid for this crime. Her big thing at the hearing was got to sew up the border, no accountability. People are killing all our children and no one's being held accountable for it.
No one's paying for the deaths of Kyler and Queefter.
I don't have my pound of flesh for Kyler and Queefter. So here's the backstory on this tragic case of Kiesling's children.
A tragic drug overdose investigation in Auburn Hills after 3 young people dead in a hotel room. 2 of those victims were brothers.
So sad. Tonight their parents are speaking out about their heartbreaking loss.
Losing not 1, but 2 children at the same time to drugs. The parents of 20-year-old Caleb and 18-year-old Kyler Kiesling of Rochester Hills barely able to speak.
You know, I did everything I was supposed to do to stop this.
Auburn Hills police say Wednesday afternoon they got a call to check on the welfare of a 17-year-old girl from Rochester Hills at the Baymont Hotel on Opdyke near University. Inside, the Kiesling brothers and that 17-year-old girl dead. A 20-year-old man from Lake Orion lying unconscious.
Auburn Hills Fire Department came over to assist and they resuscitated him and he was transported to the hospital. So we're told at this point he's in stable condition.
Just to clarify the details of that story, there were 4 teenagers, teens, 20, 2 of them or whatever, 17, 18, and 20, in a hotel room partying, doing some pills. All 4 of them overdosed. Before they arrived on the scene, medics arrived on the scene. 3 had died. 2 were Kiesling's kids, and then there was a young girl, 17-year-old girl, and the other kid who had overdosed was revived, so they got him with Narcan in time. However that worked out, he was in stable condition at the hospital. Was where that ends?
But he's black and alive, so he's
hold
going
on.
to
Now,
jail.
Diana, hold on. Now, fentanyl doesn't care about race. What do you mean? Why is that relevant?
Well, but
why
what's
is that
interesting is this woman's kids did exactly what that kid did.
Oh.
And she wants, I don't think if Kyler were with us, she would be like, throw him in jail.
I doubt it.
So this accountability situation is really interesting.
Very interesting. So this kid comes to in the hospital, gets arrested, and his charges. People know, regular listeners. I'm always, pissing and moaning about the drug delivery resulting in death charges.
But just to explain that,
Sure.
it's like blaming the person who got the drugs.
Correct. Yes.
Which is, if you've ever done drugs or ever bought beer or anything, somebody always has to get it. So it's basically like, I think it's like misdirected rage and grief.
Yes.
That somebody does have to pay.
Yes, I think that the punitive nature of our criminal justice and this idea of a pound of flesh, eye for an eye kind of thing. This idea that people should be charged with murder and be spending, so this.
But 2 things. She already got her pound of flesh. We'll go back to that kid, but this poor kid's rotting in jail for doing exactly what her cul-de-sac kids did. And instead of her turning that into like going out and helping the community, she turns around and needs more flesh.
More flesh.
Which is just anybody coming over the southern border is now a drug dealing murderer.
That's correct. She wants them all.
So this woman just like on the warpath, and I think racist twice.
2 times.
Fool me twice,
yes.
sissy.
Yeah, fool me and hiding behind the that the fentanyl doesn't see color. She's no. This is the rotten Kiesling. And just another quick little backstory about her too. She's also hardcore. And, wherever you stand on this, but, anti-abortion crusader as well. So she's known in the conservative circle. They didn't just pluck this woman out of nowhere. Now, having two sons die at once was very sensational. So the media, local media, national media, they loved this story at the time. This was in 2020 that this happened.
Right, but she loves telling people what to do.
Loves telling people what to do with their
body
bodies.
And who should be in jail and who should be,
Who should be alive, dead.
Yes.
Incarcerated.
Right.
Everything in between. She's so she's on the warpath here now, trotting this back out, And this idea that exactly that there was no retribution, there was no accountability, when in her case, she really definitely did get that.
She actually got it.
And in a lot of cases, these families, again, it's not telling people how to grieve, whatever it is, but you see a lot of these cases where this happens. And the family, of course, just goes, well, this doesn't bring them back, but at least it gives and there's so many arguments against that, even if it wasn't a situation where you just go, oh, this is someone who sells drugs for a living. That's their whatever they sold these drugs. The reason why that's a bad idea of this drug delivery, and we have, a stretch, decades, at least 2 decades of research, evidence, data on this. It doesn't work for whatever it is you're trying to do in terms of saying, let's deter people from selling drugs. Most people who are selling drugs are doing it out of a desperate situation to feed their families.
Right, but also these kids wanted to get fucked up.
So there's that.
She's also taking any autonomy away from her kids. It sucks that they got, it sounds like a damaged drug supply or didn't know what they were taking. Mm-hmm. That's the tragedy here. But adults or near adults, 17 and 20, 18 and 20, deciding they want to get fucked up with their friends. Again, we need testing strips, we need education, policy, etc. But her children chose to do that. So if her issue is that somebody did something illegal, her kids are right there with that other kid doing something illegal. Mm-hmm. And if her issue is just blaming somebody, then isn't it their fault too? I mean, I'm not, trying to blame dead kids, but I just mean when somebody's drunk uncle drives off a cliff, you're not Budweiser must pay for their crime. I mean, it's just weird.
Right.
Or who bought the beer at the reunion? I don't, how deep does that cunt go?
Yeah, no, we don't want to find out. Well, I guess as deep as it goes is I've seen instances of this charging people with murder, essentially, or under the law, however they're able to manslaughter, they're categorize this. But, giving people these long sentences. I've seen brother and sister. I've seen there was a situation where a brother died, brother and sister got high together and the brother died, and they went to lock the sister up. This is another one of these extreme ones where you just go, which of course, as we all know, how this system works, you don't get a trial. This kid gets, he gets a shit public defender who takes a deal where they go, well, you could spend life or you can get 15 years. So this kid got 15 years.
They're listen, a black kid survived with 2 white kids wearing bow ties.
Have you seen these photos? They show them the photos.
They're literally wearing bow ties. He has to go to jail or everyone's going to freak out. I basically think that's a shitty community, dark dealing.
It is. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what.
Because that is such bullshit. If that had gone a different way and one of her kids had survived, I don't think that this would have played out the same way.
And that's the butterfly effect revolving door, or what is it? Yeah, whatever it is.
I think it's called butterfly effect revolving door. Yeah.
The revolving butterfly. That's the scenario I would love to see. Is one of the sons lives and the other 3 die, because again,
we don't love to see that.
I would love to see
no, we don't want anyone to die.
No,
we don't want it. We're going to get a lot of shit for this app. We're shitting on this mother.
We are, but I hope we've explained why. I think people probably can understand where this is coming from, because
also I did everything right. That's really frustrating too, because it's kind of I'm a victim or whatever, because I'm I don't know. That feels judgmental and shitty too. People who bad things happen to, it's their fault and they didn't do everything. There's just a lot about her that I don't love.
There is, sure.
Don't love it.
Not a huge fan.
Not a big fan.
Not as big a Fent fan. Yes. Kiesling, no. The parts that there's other parts in there that I didn't, trimming it down, if you can believe it or not, trimmed some of that stuff out. And from her full testimony in front of Congress, she says there's so much shit she says that idea of we didn't do. It's so clearly the flip in the script of when it happens to my kids, this is just a completely different situation. They were just trying to get a Percocet. They weren't trying to do whatever, or they were trying to get a Xanax or something, or they were trying to get whatever it is. It's and it's the one pill can kill narrative. You hear that a lot, which she has said, and her parent and other parents say. I don't think she says it about her kids, because I think her kids might have been busted once before with something. So her kids had a history of drug use. But I think you hear this from a lot of people saying, well, one time, my kid just took one pill and they died. That's how bad this fentanyl can be. And I'm just in what world?
Why does that
How
matter?
did that show up on the on the talk screen?
Yeah, first of all, no, your kid's been getting high every weekend. You're an idiot.
Sure.
And second of all, you either care about the legality of it or you don't. Like,
Yes.
obviously that is horseshit and should be thrown out the window. But if you're somebody that cares and you're going, well, they only did it once, so we should care about them, but we shouldn't care about people who do it more than once because they're bad and they should go to jail. You're like, how are you, like, what backflips are you doing to make sense of that in your own mind?
Right. Yeah. It takes a lot of logical pretzeling and noodling to get to the point where you say, how is it that, why is it they weren't a junkie, they weren't addicted, they weren't an addict, they weren't like some, gutter punk, scumbag. Like they were just a kid going to school and they needed, an Adderall to study, or they wanted a Xanax to chill out, or they just wanted one Percocet because they hurt their back or something. So they only took one pill, and you're just like, again, what is the, so what we're supposed to, why are you trying to elicit, like, we should all feel compassion and empathy. And when people lose somebody, it's fucking brutal. You don't need to then justify why, like, that's just, it feels
Why
like
your
the stigma
kid
is there,
more,
is so internalized.
I think you're right.
People are going to judge.
Internalized that they are like, now people are going to think I'm a bad parent or that my kid was a bad person, when it's like, wake up, sheeple. Everybody's getting fucked up. Society's crumbling. People are sad.
Thank you.
And also, kids that age just want to get fucked up anyway, Not everybody, but I think that's, nobody's judging you that your kid was partying in a hotel room. I'm not. I'm judging the bow ties a little bit.
Sure. The bow ties are reserved. Yeah, we can reserve our judgment for the bow ties.
Yeah, but like, it's just sad. It's sad all around.
It is. It is tragic. And it's, I think the only reason it's kind of going after this woman and, this entire hearing and this whole approach, which is a bipartisan approach. Again, there's certainly some people, there are both sides, all sides. We only, of course, ever get two sides in terms of
and
Congress.
Those sides are both the same side.
Those are the side. Yeah, you flip that coin and you're like, oh, it's a dog's dick and it's a dog's dick. All right, they're both
corporatists who love the military, pick a side.
What color do you prefer, red or blue? It's all superficial. But I think like this idea of making fentanyl, because we've seen that push now, is to make fentanyl, to schedule it, to get it off schedule, to get it on Schedule 1. So people are trying to do, which is then again is weird because then you can't use it medicinally. Like things on Schedule 1 have no medicinal use, is the idea of that. They're talking about making the penalties worse, possession being like the weapon of mass destruction shit starts getting real. Like that
I hadn't heard that. That's
rhetoric
pretty funny. I mean, that's funny.
MTG was on that train. That is funny. A weapon of mass destruction being considered, like just a
MTG on the WMD.
MTG and the WMD.
2020. That was like a bad. She was doing like a bad Barbara Walters.
Barbara Wawa, 2020.
Yeah.
So
nice try, Joe.
Nice try. I think, I mean, it's sad all around. You see the rhetoric going in this direction. Let's get tougher on the border. Let's call it a weapon of mass destruction. Let's put people in jail who are just like this guy's public. The last thing I just want to say about this public defender, because I want to look him up. I do want to actually, maybe I'll do a prank call. We'll do an episode where we call this public defender.
Ooh, yeah. Love a prank call.
Love a good prank. It's been a while since I've done one and I've never done one on the air. So I'd love to record one. I want to call this guy and just be like, listen, so this idea of being like, you really thought, because I get the wheeling and dealing. You don't want to fucking go to trial. No public defender. They're like, let's take the deal. Let's do the thing.
Yeah, it's just somebody's life.
Of course, just some kid. Yeah, some teenager who's going to be in jail for the next 15 years, which is the rest. Yeah, his life is now.
15 years. I mean, that fucks up your life.
Sorry. Yeah.
I don't think people come out after 15 better off than they went in.
No. 1 minute. That's what people don't understand either. It's that idea of like, well, you just do this. I'm like, yeah, one minute being incarcerated is brutal. I think that this public defender, though, I just questioning being like, this felt like such a slam dunk. Like, I wish you would have forced a judge and I guess a jury, if this went far enough, to look at this kid and be like, you also did the drugs. Like, you all did the drugs together. So whether you called, you copped that day for these kids, it was your guy that you called or whatever. Some other days it was theirs. Whoever it was, this day, yes, you made the phone call. You did it. But it should be part of this law. It should almost be written in, I would think. Is that like, if you do the drugs with the people, then there isn't this idea of like, you knew what you were selling them and you were, so fuck you. You just didn't care if they lived or died and you were giving them fentanyl and telling them it was something else. I'm like, he did this shit with them. I think once you're there doing then like.
I hate to point this out. Well, we need a fact check. If you think it's them purposefully poisoning your kids, but you also think it's coming in at the border, Like, I'm like, so you think everyone's just like Dr. Evil? Like, I don't understand. Like, it seems very obvious to me that nobody is doing that on purpose.
No, especially once it gets stepped on to the point of like most street dealers are selling
stepped on
whatever.
is like
cut with
shit.
adultery.
Yeah, like baby powder and laxatives.
Yes,
and,
vitamin E. There's other things that aren't
vitamin E.
Fentanyl, vitamin E.
Good for your skin.
Yeah, little keep yourself youthful glow, and you get high and you don't die.
We should make that FE.
Fentanyl, fentanyl E.
FE, yeah, that's the code for iron.
Is
on
it?
The periodic table? Yeah.
Look at Madam Nye.
Madam Nye, the science. Hi. Okay.
Take care.
Please cut all of that.
No, it stays. I'm going to play it twice back to back.
No.
All right. Well, that's the end of that. This has been a special episode.
This was great, and maybe we can check back in with our friend at some point if she goes back on the warpath. We will. Yes, we'll make sure. Yeah, we'll check back in and we'll keep you posted on a lot of these. The fentanyl fever just keeps ramping up. Just when you think it gets to the peak, it keeps on trucking. Where should people? What do you want people to do? What do you want people to do with themselves and their lives? I guess just like try to be outside as much as you can and take care of your community. That's fucking beautiful. Yes, that sounds like yes, absolutely. But where should they find you? That was a plug. That was like an existential plug. I'm unfindable. No, yeah, I do my Funk Dead zine, which is like a leftist comedy zine, functionallydead.com. And that's all for now. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. I also am a designer and illustrator. I did all the design for your program. All of the art for this program and design. Artists for hire. Beautiful. She's the fucking best in the business. I dare you to question that. Thank you, dear. Love you, Lover. And I really appreciate you having me back. All right, Lover. Thank you so much again for doing it. And thank you for listening. This has been your weekly dose. Hey, America, there's needle use of sleeping with your children, with your daughters, with your sons, and with your husband. Self-Medicated Weekly Dose is hosted and produced by me, Murph Meyer, with support from Pop Culture Collaborative. Our theme song is My Congressman by 15, courtesy of Jeff Ott and Hopeless Records. Original artwork and production design by Diana Kolsky. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the program, you can listen to new episodes of Weekly Dose every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcasts. While you're at it, subscribe to the Self-Medicated YouTube channel to see new video clips from the show each week. Follow me on Instagram at Murph Meyer. And for some top-shelf harm reduction resources, head over to selfmedicatedpod.com. Also, don't forget, you can call the Weekly Dose podcast anytime to leave me a voicemail message with your thoughts on drugs and the people who use them. Just pick up the phone and dial 443-MK-ULTRA. All right, that's about it for me. I'll see you next week. Love and solidarity. Goodbye. Weekly Dose. Hey, America, there's no use of sleeping with your children, with your daughters, with your sons, and with your heart.